This week on the show, I've got a guest. His name is Jordan Mendoza. I met Jordan through a previous podcast guest, Andy Storch. We were on a group Zoom call for Andy's Talent Development Summit. And I was listening to Jordan's story and what he was sharing and decided then and there I needed to get him on this show. Jordan is a sales and training professional with over 25 years experience in sales and marketing and 14 years experience in the multifamily housing industry. He explains what that is in this show, if you're not too sure what that is all about. He's also the host of the Blaze Your Own Trail podcast. And he's never lost a freestyle rap battle in his life. And he also breakdances and writes and does a ton of things, as you'll hear. Over the last year, he's amassed a following of over 60,000 people on LinkedIn. Now, onto the show. I am so excited to welcome onto the podcast Jordan Mendoza. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, it's an honor to be here.
I met Jordan on a call. It was actually part of a talent development summit from a previous guest, Andy Storch. And as I was hearing Jordan talk about the stuff that he uses in his training and virtual sessions, as well as face-to-face, plus his story and how he's crushing it on LinkedIn, I thought I had to grab him on the show. So Jordan, can you please share with our listeners a bit about your story, your journey to what got you here today?
Yeah, sure. I think it all starts with where you grew up, right? And who did you have around you and who was part of that environment, like who your influencers are. And so I always love to share really the two biggest influencers in my life, and they're a big part of who I am today. So the first one would be my mom. She's a woman that was born in 1958 with one lung. And in the 50s, when that happened to you, the doctors essentially told them that you probably won't live to be 18 and you definitely won't be able to have any kids because of the capacity on your body that pregnancy causes. And so, she was a fighter. She didn't use her ailment as a crutch. She was very optimistic. She ended up having 5 boys and ultimately living to be 54 years old. So she's somebody that really did well with the hand that was dealt to her, against all odds, and didn't do it and didn't complain about it, even though we were on welfare. Like, she figured out ways to make money. This is back in the 80s and 90s where she's going to bingo to try to win money so that we could have school supplies and clothes and things like that, and going to the dog races, and any way that she could figure out to make money, she was doing it. So she was kind of the original gig economy, if you will, the side hustle queen for her day. And my dad's actually from the Philippines, and I didn't meet him till I was 12. So this was, something that was a very interesting thing to have happen, where my mom's like, hey, do you want to go meet your dad? He lives in Washington, D.C. And so I travel across the U.S. and meet him and my stepmom. And, he is remarried and had 2 other children. So I was meeting a whole other side of the family, but I also was getting enriched into a new culture, right? He's from the Philippines, and he grew up in the mountains area of northern Luzon and in the rice fields and things like that, and worked his way up, went to the military, then became a seaman and traveled the world painting ships. And one day decided to come to the U.S. for the American dream, and worked for a landscaping company for a bit, and then started his own. And almost 40 years later, he has his business. He's never ran a single ad in the paper. Everything is based off of word of mouth and referrals from people. So he taught me how to work hard, and, coming and doing landscaping all summer long and putting in those 12-hour days. So I got my hard work ethic, I think, from him. So when you put those two people together, someone that was optimistic against everything she dealt with, taught me how to be kind, empathetic, and added the humor and the sports elements. That's where I got my love of sports. And then somebody that taught me that, if you want something, work hard for it, don't give up, work hard even when people aren't watching you, so really both of them inspired me to do some of the things that I've done. And I think for me, it was knowing early on that I had the ability to verbally communicate. I've always been good at sales. When I played sports, I played soccer and baseball 12 years. I enjoyed going and selling the candy more than actually playing the sports, right? I enjoyed that aspect of it. And when other kids hated doing the selling, and I'm like, oh, I want to go talk to people, So I really have used that in, getting my first job in sales at 14, selling newspaper subscriptions door to door, right? So at 14 years old, I got exposed to hearing 100 people tell me no a day. And when you can do that at a young age, and when you can start to learn, okay, maybe I need to change what I'm saying in order for them to keep the door open longer, right? Because this is my livelihood. I'm getting paid a commission here. So you get really good at reading, relating, right? Looking at certain things around their yard that you could relate to. And I could say, oh, hey, did your team win last weekend? If there's a flag, so I would take different elements and I would actually use that in these face-to-face conversations. And that's actually, this is 1999, summer of 99, when I really had my first opportunity to be a facilitator. I'd gotten a sales job and they asked me to run a sales meeting, and so we had to come up with material, content, if you will, right? But this is done like on a whiteboard, and we would have to give somebody some actionable advice, and then they would go out to the field and go sell. And this would get them pumped up for the day. So I remember leading that first session at 18 years old in 1999. And I still get the same joy today as I did that day, each time I get to, to present or to speak to people.
Gosh, what a story. And as you say, in your story, one of your strengths is that verbal communication side. It's funny when people respond to that question, you can pick up on what their strengths are. And what you did was you dove straight into a story. And yeah, really sort of, it was told beautifully. I could see, the journey with meeting your dad and what you learned from that as well. I also love how you talk about the lessons from sport. And it's funny that you said your favorite part of sport was like the fundraising and, selling those tickets. I played sport very competitively as well. My favorite part was actually the team dynamics, what was going on and how we could get great team cohesion. I always wanted to be that person that had the most fun with the team. And so it's funny how in sport, which is like, there's so many lessons from it, but what you're actually pulling can actually lead into what you're doing now as someone that teaches and trains in sales. So as an 18-year-old, you're relating to people, you're that subject matter expert. What are some things that you've learned from being a facilitator, from being a trainer? What are things that are important to communicate a message to, as you said, inspire people to then take action?
One of my favorite things to do is to ask powerful, open-ended questions, right? Because open-ended questions, of course, elicit a response. So if I can ask a question, like a powerful question that gets people to think, anyone that responds is going to have to really take that question in, really think about it before they can respond to it. And usually there's a lot of good conversation that stems from doing that. But I think one of the other things that I like to do is make sure to mix things up, right? Because I teach some 8-hour classes, right? Where, a group might be with me for 8 days. So I teach a 6-month leadership program and it's 1 8-hour session a day for 6 months. And it's regionally based and you're learning a lot of different leadership techniques and a lot of different focuses. And of course, an 8-hour day, that's long. As humans, we don't have that great of an attention span as it is. So to put 15 adults, right? 15 adults in a room and being able to captivate their attention for 8 hours, not easy, right? So you get real good at being creative. So, I'll do, whether that's, obviously breaks are important, and then when there's a break, having music, making sure there's refreshments, there's snacks, making sure that there are activities built all throughout, right? To keep people engaged, right? Each activity relates exactly to the content that we're talking about. And doing all of those things, you can get it down to a science to where exactly each session, when this is going to come in, when the break's going to come in, when the activity is going to hit, what the impact's going to create. Do we need a longer break after it? You know what I'm saying? So I've learned a lot of those things along the way, but I think from a professional facilitating standpoint, I got thrown to the wolves, right? And I think that's the best way to do it. I would love to tell you where I got sent and what happened during this crazy week whenever you'd like me to, because I think it's a story for people to hear.
Please. Yeah. And this is it's called First Time Facilitator, but I think it all relates. And a lot of very advanced facilitators also listen to the show. And we always sort of smile and reflect on, the first session we ran, which, I was thrown to the wolves as well. So I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah, so this actually isn't a session I ran. This is me getting sent to Florida, and I was in DC at the time, to go to get an advanced instructor certification. Brand new instructor. I'm going to get an advanced. There's nothing advanced about me, Leanne, at this time. The only thing advanced is maybe I got there quicker than some people did, right? But I don't know what I'm doing. So I get sent to Florida, and I walk into a room with 16 other of my peers that work at other management companies in the training industry with years and years of experience. Like I'm like the rookie coming in, you know? And when you walk in, the easiest thing that you could spot was the red light beaming from the camera in the back of the room. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? Why is there a camera? Right. So everybody's freaked out because there's an obvious elephant here in the room that's a camera. So what did we have to do, Leanne? Well, they called us up by name. We had to come introduce ourselves and present some piece of content that we present. And mind you, I'm new, so I don't know this stuff. I haven't memorized this stuff yet. So I went up there and just kind of freestyled it. You're being recorded, of course. And then at the end of that day, there was, of course, some instruction and things like that. But at the end of the day, you got the DVD. You went back to the hotel. You had to watch it. You had to, essentially judge yourself and critique yourself. You had to come back the next day and then start all over again, right? And so as the week progressed, you got better, right? The DVDs went from really terrible to okay-ish, and then they would move along. And then by the end of the week, you had somewhat of a finished product. I don't think mine was great, but I definitely, you can see the progress. And I think it's just, going into environments like that, they can be crazy, it can be scary because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what people are going to think. And these are people from all over the country, from different organizations. And again, like from my perspective, it's like, I don't even have a college degree. Why I don't belong here? Like these people have all this experience. And so that imposter syndrome, can set in as well. And so, you just have to make a decision. All right, am I going to soak all of this in and learn and grow? Or am I going to dwell on the fact that I'm probably the worst person here? And, like I don't have a whole lot of value to add yet to the world, So, and I always go the optimistic route. That's just, I think that comes from my mom, because I'm always like, well, the good news is, I didn't have to pay for this class, so I'll figure out some way to spin it in a positive way.
It's funny that you mentioned that from a participant perspective, walking into that, and then the status, like, I'm the rookie. There's people who are way more experienced than me. Kind of reminds me your story of when I first started playing golf. And for 2 years, all I did was I was at the driving range and I just wasn't brave enough to actually play around. And all my friends were like, come on, Leanne, just play around. It'll be fun. And I'm like, no, I've got to be great before I even step onto a course. They made me, I went, and these people who played, they got handicaps and everything else. And like you, Jordan, I was just, I'm the rookie here, really. But what I discovered is when you play with people that are really good, you actually elevate yourself. I've actually played with other golfers that aren't so great, and I actually don't play that great either. So I actually lift with the people that surround me. So good 100%. On you. And yeah, I've got to think about as well from a design point of view that they really put you on the spot there, walking in with a camera and recording. So I've run presentation skills sessions before where we do bring the camera in, but there's a bit of like coaxing but wow, that was just
this one was like you were on the highest cliff and they're like jump, pretty much. That's kind of how it felt at first. But of course, you get over that fear of what people are thinking and stuff like that. And I think you just, you start to develop that confidence, and that's really what it was designed to do.
Yeah. So what do you think shifted then in over that time? Was it more that you got the mastery of the content, or was it your more like the delivery style, or being more comfortable with asking questions and relinquishing some control? All three? What do you think really sticks out?
I think there was a lot of value that I learned. One of the things that we talked about was finding a home base. And so what a home base is you find an area that you can walk to that is a safe place. Like you've essentially deemed this area a place where you can like refocus and recenter. And so by walking to that place, subconsciously you get there and then you're fine. Right. And then when you're ready, you can start to move back around the room and kind of go on with your thing. So that was one thing that I picked up that I still, when I'm coaching people, I'm like, hey, try to find a home base, find that location, that safe place for you. So that was helpful for me to put it in that perspective.
That is really interesting. And I'm trying to think, what would my home base be? I've certainly seen some people that do struggle. Like it's like the security blanket where they'll step behind the computer, like that's maybe their home base, but maybe it shouldn't be. Yep. Or in virtual workshops, it's like, well, this is my home base and it's also my energetic, it's hard to, I think that's probably also the struggle of virtual, is that there's nowhere There is no, it's just all in one spot, really. So that's interesting. Have you been doing much work facilitating online, virtual workshops and
A ton.
demonstrating
Yeah,
leadership?
since COVID hit, I've created 6 new sales workshops for our organization. One of them was called maximizing sales in a virtual environment, and we've had almost 500 people go through that. I created a social selling course that taught our associates how to shoot and create their own video content and add headlines and images and graphics and music if they want, and then post that to attract prospective residents, and copywriting basics, things like that. And a couple of them were just some sales corners where if you were struggling with objections, like it's just kind of an open forum. I teach people a objection framework, and then also teach them how to use preemptive strikes for common objections, so that instead of them bringing it up, you bring it up prior to them saying anything. So there's, things like that. There's a live show. One of them is a live show. So really a lot of content, because, you're either going to be like, all right, well, I guess training's over, or you just well, I guess we figure out and we keep moving along as we go. Right. Because the first iteration, literally when COVID hit, the next day I had to create a course to teach people how to shoot a video, create a YouTube account, upload the video to YouTube, take those links, and then paste them to prospects so they can see the building, right? Because you couldn't do any more tours. And so that was like the first iteration. And then it was like, well, what if we got everyone's Zoom accounts, and then they could just send people, their prospects, the Zoom link, they can actually meet in person and look at the images and the walkthrough. And so we moved to that, right? And so it just kept changing and evolving as we went along. And the numbers are really showing what the impact was. And that is that, year over year, we've had a 25% increase in new leases. And this is during a pandemic, right?
Wow.
So, it just shows that regardless of the circumstances, you can still create engaging content virtually, right? I've been here in this space since March, and it's making an impact. It's making an impact on the bottom line.
Oh, I love that you're actually getting the results, seeing the transformation. You got the data to back that as well. I'm curious about that first workshop that you talked about, the maximizing selling virtually, because that's selling is, I don't know, what I see it, it's a lot of influencing and building trust, right? And I think that's what we're all trying to figure out, is how can we build trust quickly when we're in a virtual world. Is that something that you address in the program? What are some cool things that you discuss in that I feel that there's a lot of symmetry with us as facilitators in that course?
Yeah. So our industry is multifamily housing, so property management, luxury apartments. And so typically our customer is front facing, right? They walk in our doors and we take them on a tour and we show them the apartment. If they like it, they put down a deposit, and that's how the process works. Well, what happened when COVID hit? None of them could do that, right? And so we just took the in-person and we just switched it to online. So now you can, on the website, we had a chat bot and we updated the info so that they could book virtual tours instead of in-person tours, right? Yep. And so they would give them 3 different options. They could pick it and book it. Well, when they book that, it would get a notification in our CRM. We would then be communicating through messaging there, give them the Zoom link where they can jump on a call and meet with the leasing professional, right? So now the leasing professional can meet with them. We can walk them through a video of their exact apartment. The other upgrade we did is we started having people do the tour from the actual apartment. So it was like they were FaceTiming on Zoom and walking them around the apartment. Yeah. So, there's different iterations of it, but it enabled us to have the conversation like we were in person, give the tour like they were in person. And then in the closing, it's very easy, because if you liked it, great. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to the application in the chat. You can go and apply and take it off the market today. So why can't you sell like that, right? And you can literally take that approach and plug in any business. I don't care what you're selling. You could be selling blankets. You could be selling t-shirts. You know what I'm saying? You could be selling coaching services, and you can take that approach and add that model to your business, because you are going to build relationship, right? When you're having a conversation.
Absolutely. And I love that the use of video really does build that trust, right? And yeah, you're right. I was thinking, how do I apply this to a facilitation business? And maybe it could be a snippet of one of your workshops or 3 things that you cover in a 1-hour session. And so giving them a little teaser. What I also loved about your process, Jordan, is how easy you made it for the person buying. It wasn't hard for them to find things. It was like an automated process, which is really cool. of that.
100%. Yeah, it's all about lack of friction. The easier you
Yeah.
can make things for people, the better. If I can click two buttons and you can take my money, then let's do it. Like let's make it easy.
Lack of friction. That's what I talk about in podcasts as well. When I talk about opening a workshop, is a low friction question so people actually engage, make it really easy for them to start talking. Now, Jordan, if people aren't following you on LinkedIn, I'd suggest they do. Your content is awesome. And you talked about your skill before of copywriting, your ability to tell stories. How many followers do you have on LinkedIn now? It's like last time it was like 60.
Yeah, I think I'm close to 60, a little over 60,000. And that's been such a crazy journey, really, because I just started creating content last April. And at that point, I had like 7,000 connections or followers. And then by December, and again, for everyone that's going to listen to this, it was literally me showing up consistently, creating content, putting out content that I had knowledge around or expertise in, and sharing it. Because when you put out content from that perspective, like my goal with my content is I want to teach you something that you can take and you can finish listening to what I say and you can apply it and you can actually get results, right? Because that's the content that people need to hear. Because if you can learn from that and it can help you, then if you need help down the road, guess what? You're probably going to reach out, if you learn something. So I think when you look through it from that lens, like I want to create content that either educates, right, inspires or entertains, one of those buckets, then you're going to have results.
And we're using like all different types of mediums. So images, text, video.
Images. Yeah, all of it. Images, text, videos. I mean, I've done, a 30-day challenge. And the way that I did it is I kind of freestyled in the sense that every day I came up with the topic when I woke up the next day. And so I didn't know what video I was going to shoot. I would try to do it in one take, and then I would just add my captions and editing and then publish it and write the copy. I mean, it was like that organic, and it was a lot of fun because I got to do things like I do a lot of impressions like Simpsons characters and stuff like that. And so I got to showcase some of that I haven't done in years,
You've got to do one for us right now.
Okay, let's see. Which one should I do? All right, people will know this.
Hi, kids. I'm Krusty the Clown.
Oh my gosh, well done. Round of applause. That, and
Thank
no,
you,
I didn't
you.
edit a Krusty the Clown sound clip. That was Jordan.
That was
very
me.
talented. Okay,
Yeah.
I can see why that would get a lot of love on LinkedIn, because how many people are doing it? When I scroll LinkedIn, it's all very sort of professional, and you're doing, like you talk about the entertainment thing, and I think that's something that possibly I can do a bit more of. Educating is easy because I do it with the podcast and it's what I do, but the entertainment part.
Just to give you an example, I did a video on TikTok with my family, and it was one of the trending dance moves. Of course, I've got two daughters, so whatever they tell me to do, I do. But so they tell me we're gonna do this family TikTok video, and I posted it, and then I was like, holy, why are people engaging with this? Why are people resonating with this? And then it's like 20,000 views, and it was a video I posted on TikTok, and I just repurposed it on LinkedIn. But I think people just got the sense of like, wow, you're just having fun, and it's okay to do that, right? It's okay to just have fun and show other sides of you. Because when LinkedIn added stories, I was super excited because now it really kind of breaks this crash of like professional and personal level, because everybody wakes up in pajamas or in a t-shirt. Everybody wears jogging clothes to jog, not a suit. You know what I'm saying? And so now if you use stories in what I would call, I guess, the best way, you're going to start showcasing the behind the scenes of your day, right? If you're an entrepreneur, it's you get up, it's like, hey, I'm going on my morning jog, and using stories to literally show people behind the scenes, but show them the 100% side of you, not just the one that shows up on video with your polo on. So I think that that's going to add tremendous value. And another thing that they just added recently is, well, a couple features. They've added reactions and messaging. So if you send me a message, I can now hold it down if you're an iOS user, and you can choose from different reactions. Additionally, you now can integrate with Teams and Zoom. So if we're having a communication, right, you're a prospective client, it's like, hey, it makes sense sense to hop on a Zoom call. Now you can actually integrate Zoom or Teams to set up the call or natively in LinkedIn. So, there's some amazing features. You can even do events like that. So there's some really, really cool things that are going to help, a lot of entrepreneurs, facilitators as well, people that want to grow relationships right from their inbox. That really adds a lot of value because, you know how it is when you're just messaging back and forth, static text is one thing, but when you can turn that into now you're seeing each other right on camera like we are right now, I mean, that's how relationships get built.
Absolutely. And the other thing that you do, Jordan, as well is, you produce a lot of content, but you also do a lot of tagging people and recognizing people within your network. And that's where I think you take it a next level is like, I'll wake up in the morning and like Jordan's tagged me in something. It's like, that was really nice. And I'll respond and I'm very grateful. And how many kids do you have as well?
We have 5. So they range from almost 4 months to almost 16 years old. So three boys and 2 girls.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, lovely. And so I guess, when I see that and I think, so Jordan's got 5 kids, he's got a podcast, he works, he's got all this stuff going on, he's putting out content. So a couple of questions
business, I
exactly.
definitely have a lot going on, but I actually thrive in chaos. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just kind of my personality. If I have a lot going on, I actually perform at a high level. If I have to focus on one linear thing, it's actually lose focus. So it's very interesting how I work, but that's how I've always operated.
So you have like multiple tabs on your screen like me?
Yep, 100%.
So people that are listening are also interested, like they might be they work in a company, but they want to do something on the side. So how do you balance both of those and in terms of your attention and your focus and giving 110% of Jordan to 2 different areas?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to how I'm wired. I enjoy having multiple projects, multiple things at once. I could have 3 corporate projects running and 6 client projects and then podcast episodes to edit. And I'm in my zone, like I'm in my element like that. It's just kind of how I thrive. I thrive off of letting all of the creative juices flow. Right? Because there's sometimes if I'm just focusing on one thing that my mind goes over here because I want to be able to do that. And so if I'm enabling myself to do it at scale, it just works. I don't know how else to explain it, but it works.
Yeah. It's funny. We've got a state election coming up here in Queensland. We're talking about the current premier. And so apparently we're just figuring out because she is quite popular now because of COVID and how she's protected the state and everything else. And in a previous election, it had come just after some floods. So you look at her and you think she is a leader that just loves crisis. She's just great in crisis. Winston Churchill was another one. Apparently he was just terrible when things were going well, but during a crisis it's when he really stepped up. So maybe it's something intrinsic. It's something that people are wired to. I do love a bit of chaos as well. If I've got one task to do, it would take me forever to do, but if I had 5, you'd get them all done. So in terms of, that's a lot of to do with managing energy as well. And when you are before a podcast or before a virtual workshop or a big sales call or a training session, how do you get yourself in the zone to deliver that? Do you need to rile yourself up or just sort of stroll in?
It's so funny because I just can show up. I always see here's some tips for preparation and, here's that. And I get it. I see how it would work for some people, but it's actually just it's my element. It's where I enjoy being. When I'm a guest on a show, everyone's like, oh, do you need to prepare? I'm like, I can get on there with 30 seconds ready to go because it's easy to talk about myself because it's the life that I've lived. So it's harder being a host, I think, than being a guest. And I feel that same way when I'm a facilitator because I'm a guest, right? I'm a guest speaker essentially for everybody that's there. Right. Yeah, I'm the facilitator, but I'm also a guest speaker in a sense. So I think when you can look at it from that perspective, for me, it puts me at ease versus gives me anxiety. Anxiety for me is solo podcast episodes. I've never done one because you know what I'm saying? I'm afraid of going back and having to listen to just my voice. I don't know if I want to do that.
Well, it's funny, the other day I had to record a solo podcast. Listen to my language there. I had to record a solo podcast. So Jordan, what I did instead was I just did a live stream into my Facebook group, the Flip Chart, because I wanted to feed off other people's energy and their questions. So it wasn't really, I was kind of cheating, but it was easier.
You cheated for sure.
I totally cheated, but it was easier than just having some prompts and talking into a microphone with no one there. I actually love the live stream solo podcast. Super fun. So in terms of your workshops, are there any sort of fun activities or icebreakers or things that you use that are just so reliable? You could just it could be a question that just always gets a response that you enjoy.
Well, I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that up, Leanne, because for anyone that sees the video portion of this, they're going to see some of the enhancements that a platform like Zoom can bring. And so give me just 2 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and do this live. And first, I'm going to be on TV. And then additionally, I kind of want a 70s mustache, and I need to change my eyebrows up a little bit. But you know what? I think actually I would like to be on stage in this film. So, these are some things that I'm going to be using now that they're available as icebreakers, because now the audience is watching me on stage, Leanne. I mean, I just made this amazing mustache happen out of thin air. So I don't know if you knew these features were available. Anybody that's going to listen to this on Zoom. So there's some new studio effects. And for the ladies out there, you can add different lipstick colors. So I'll highlight these for you, Leanne. There you go. So you can add these, you can add these on here, which is very interesting looking on me. But, you know, if you want to have some other different effects, I mean, there's so many things that you can add now.
Oh, the studio effects.
And
Love
by
it.
the way, pick your favorite glasses day. You know, if you want to be whatever this guy is in space, you know, I can be cooking up some new things. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to really have fun. So if you're looking for icebreakers, Zoom has just added some new integrations. It's studio beta and video filters that you can add. And Liam, did that break the ice for you? Do you actually, I didn't realize I still had the mustache on. Hang on. I forgot to take this off. I probably look very ridiculous right now. But anyone that gets to rewatch this, I think they're going to enjoy it. So no lip color either. All right. I'm back to normal. Oh, there you go.
Right. Yeah. So Jordan's back to normal, but now I'm just like clicking around and having fun.
I'm going to have some fun.
That's actually, I didn't know those studio effects were in.
I did this today. I created this so I can be kind of in the Milky Way, you know.
Cool.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do here.
Yeah, and I love that. So it's basically saying, right, Zoom have done this now. Now, how can you incorporate this into your session? And what kind of questions, like if you could live in any time period, pick a filter that would reflect that, or there's all sorts of questions that you could add in based on the filters and effects available. That's super cool. So Jordan, if our listeners would love to find out more about you, you do a lot of different things. So you got your podcast, consulting, your day job, you're on LinkedIn. So definitely connect with Jordan there. Where else can we send them? They'd love to find out more about you.
Yeah, you can send them on Instagram. I'm at Jordan J. Mendoza. You can find me on Facebook. The podcast is wherever you get your podcasts. We don't discriminate. I think it's on 25 platforms right now. So we're adding more, I think, every week, and fortunate to have listeners in 48 countries that we've built in the last 10 and a half months. So if you enjoy learning from other people's journeys, it's a show for you, because that's what the show is all about, is diving in, getting context, learning from the lessons the things that they went through that can now be lessons for you, and you don't have to go through the actual experience. So it's kind of like being a fly on the wall for some amazing conversation. So if that interests you, look us up. And I really appreciate you having me on, Leanne. It was amazing to come on your show, and hopefully I've added a little bit of value to your audience. That's my main purpose of coming on a show. So
you definitely have. And even you just demonstrated it through your ability to connect, give relevant examples, stories, and your ability to also sort of flex all the different questions thrown your way. So I think your podcast is amazing. I love the idea of learning from other people. It's what this podcast is all about as well. It's like accelerating your journey by learning from what other people do, so you don't have to do that yourself. Jordan, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for being so awesome, and look forward to staying in touch with you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I hope everyone that's listening, I hope you have an amazing weekend, even if it's not the weekend yet when you hear this, okay?
Lovely, thanks.